A mountain reshaped into a staircase, a river tamed into a machine. These are the works of history's master builders, individuals who saw the natural world not as a barrier, but as their greatest raw material. This journey reveals how they transformed entire continents into functional wonders, from hidden subterranean cities to landscapes that track the stars. You will discover a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity that redefines our entire relationship with the past. How did ancient cultures move stones heavier than any modern crane can lift? What secret knowledge allowed them to build machines of earth and water that still function today? What does it truly mean to build something meant to last 1,000 years? This master builder was more than an architect or an engineer. They were a visionary who spoke the language of the earth itself. Long before our modern era of specialized professions, these individuals held a unified understanding of geology, hydrology, and physics. They could look at a flowing river and see a potential clockwork mechanism. They could study a granite cliff and envision a city waiting within it. Their genius lay in a deep, almost intuitive collaboration with the raw materials of the planet. Construction was not an act of domination, but a careful dialogue. Every cut into stone, every diversion of a waterway was made with a profound respect for the existing landscape. This is why so many of their creations appear to have grown from the soil, so seamlessly integrated that they can be mistaken for natural formations. Their philosophy was fundamentally one of symbiosis. They designed systems that harnessed natural forces like gravity and water pressure, working with them rather than fighting a constant, exhausting battle. This approach resulted in structures and machines that were not only incredibly efficient but also inherently sustainable, built to last for centuries with minimal intervention. In an age grappling with environmental challenges, this ancient principle of building in harmony with the world feels not just advanced but urgently relevant. It was this deep-rooted philosophy that empowered their breathtaking ambition, allowing them to conceive of projects on a scale that can still stagger the modern mind. Water represents the ultimate challenge and the greatest opportunity. To command water was to command life itself, especially in the world's arid heartlands. In ancient Persia, a revolutionary technology known as the Qanat emerged from this simple truth. These were not simple tunnels. A Qanat was a meticulously calculated subterranean aqueduct, a hidden machine designed to defy the desert. Skilled builders would first locate a water source, often at the foot of a mountain, and then begin the painstaking work of digging a gently sloping tunnel all the way back to their settlement. The entire system operated on one invisible, unstoppable force, gravity. With no need for pumps or external power, water would flow silently for miles, emerging at the surface exactly where it was needed most. This was geoengineering on a grand scale, transforming barren landscapes into lush, habitable oases. The genius, however, did not stop at the simple act of transport. These underground channels were masterpieces of practical design, featuring vertical access shafts dug at regular intervals. These shafts allowed for maintenance and, crucially, provided ventilation that kept the water fresh and cool. It was a complete, self-sustaining system hidden right beneath the feet of the civilization it supported. This same profound understanding of hydraulics found another breathtaking expression in the Stepwells of India. These structures are so much more than they first appear. Carving deep into the earth, they are inverted temples of water. Their intricate staircases descend past countless levels, each step bringing you closer to the vital water table far below. But this was not just a way to reach water, it was a way to store it, manage it, and celebrate it. The architecture itself served as a passive cooling system, creating a microclimate that offered respite from the blistering heat above. Can you envision the community life that flourished on those steps? They were gathering places, social hubs, and sacred sites all woven into one functional machine. The water was gathered, yes, but the environment around it was carefully sculpted to enhance human life. This represents a holistic vision of engineering, where the goal was not just utility, but the creation of a truly livable world. From the hidden veins of the Qanat to the majestic descent into a stepwell, these builders were not fighting nature's chaos. They were listening to its rhythms and designing elegant, gravity-fed solutions that brought order and predictability to human survival. This foundational mastery over water would become the essential blueprint, the first great principle that enabled even more audacious acts of terrestrial engineering. While water was mastered through hidden channels, the Earth itself presented a different kind of canvas. Across the steepest slopes and most volatile mountainsides, a second principle emerged, transforming barren inclines into breathtaking geometric art. This was the practice of terracing, an act of large-scale earth sculpture that turned erosion-prone land into highly productive agricultural engines. It was far more than simple farming. Each terrace was a precisely calculated step, engineered to create its own microclimate, control the flow of water, and maximize every inch of arable land. In the Philippine Cordilleras, entire mountains were reshaped into staircases of shimmering green. These were not random cuts into the hillside. Every contour was a deliberate calculation, designed to hold water at just the right depth and for the exact duration needed to nurture the rice. The result was a living machine for food production, a system so stable and efficient that it has sustainably fed countless generations. This same profound understanding of soil mechanics and hydrology is visible on the Andean slopes, where ancient builders carved similar steps into the harsh terrain. They were not fighting the mountain's form, but collaborating with its very shape. The terraces prevented the soil from washing away in heavy rains, capturing and slowly releasing water down the levels. Can you see the genius in this? They transformed a landscape of potential loss into one of enduring abundance. The geometric precision reveals a deep, intuitive knowledge of how earth and water interact, a knowledge that allowed these master builders to literally reshape the ground beneath their feet. This was engineering for permanence, creating a functional landscape that was also a work of profound art. Soaring from the terraced mountainsides, we find perhaps the ultimate expression of this philosophy in the sky-bound monasteries of Meteora. These sanctuaries rest atop colossal natural pillars of rock, stone giants that rise abruptly from the plains of Greece. Their existence seems to defy every law of practicality. How could anyone possibly build here, let alone live here for centuries? The answer lies not in conquering the landscape, but in a profound and ingenious collaboration with it. The master builders of Meteora did not see these impossible rock towers as obstacles. They saw them as ready-made foundations, as natural fortresses gifted by the earth itself. Primary functional need here was twofold: defense and spiritual solitude. The sheer, smooth cliffs provided an insurmountable natural wall, making the monasteries virtually inaccessible to any unwanted approach. Access was the central puzzle, and its solution was a masterpiece of simple, effective engineering. For centuries, the only way up was via removable ladders or a complex system of ropes and nets hauled up by a winch. This was a vertical transportation network, a precarious but functional machine that turned the landscape's greatest challenge into its greatest strength. The very isolation that made construction so difficult was precisely what made the site so perfect. Every element was designed to work with the rock, not against it. Buildings were constructed to follow the natural contours of the summits, appearing to grow directly from the stone. Precious water was collected in cisterns carved into the rock itself, while tiny gardens were cultivated in any available patch of soil. This was a completely symbiotic relationship. The rock provided protection and a foundation, and the inhabitants developed a way of life that respected and utilized those gifts without altering their essential character. The monasteries of Meteora stand as a powerful testament to a time when building was an act of dialogue with the world. The builders listened to what the land was offering, and in doing so, they created a habitation that feels both impossibly daring and perfectly, eternally at home. The sheer weight of these stones is a language we struggle to translate. Across the globe, from the windswept plains of Salisbury to the remote Pacific island of Rapa Nui, our ancestors left behind a challenge carved in granite and basalt. They are the megaliths, stones so enormous that their very presence seems to question our understanding of the past. How does a culture without iron tools or powered machinery move a block of stone heavier than a fully loaded jumbo jet? The Moai of Easter Island stand with their backs to the sea, some weighing over 80 tons. They were quarried from the slopes of an extinct volcano and then transported, somehow, for miles across rugged terrain to their final coastal platforms. The question of how they moved is not just a technical puzzle, it is a window into a lost world of practical genius. Researchers have demonstrated that a relatively small team could walk these statues to their posts by carefully rocking them from side to side, a method that turns the colossal figure into a self-contained walking machine. This suggests a deep, intuitive understanding of physics and center of mass, a knowledge passed down through generations. Yet the mystery only deepens when we look elsewhere. In Lebanon, the stone platform of Baalbek features a single, perfectly cut block estimated to weigh over 1,000 tons. That is the equivalent of 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 airplanes. The logistical feat of moving this monolith, let alone lifting it precisely into place, defies straightforward explanation with the tools we traditionally attribute to the ancient world. Theories range from the brilliantly simple to the seemingly mystical. Perhaps they used complex systems of ropes, levers, and wooden rollers, constantly shifting the pathway beneath the stone. Some researchers propose the use of specially prepared roads, slicked with plant-based slurries to dramatically reduce friction. Other, more speculative ideas even explore the potential for using resonant sound waves to temporarily alter the properties of the stone, making it momentarily lighter. While the methods remain debated, the underlying principle is clear. These builders possessed a form of technology that was deeply integrated with their environment. They knew the secrets of their local materials, the right type of wood for a lever, the perfect vine for a rope, the specific plant that could create a slippery surface. This was not magic, it was an applied science rooted in centuries of observation and experimentation. The final placement of these stones reveals another layer of their mastery. These were not random monuments. Structures like Stonehenge are exquisitely aligned with the movements of the sun and moon. The massive stones function as a permanent astronomical calendar, marking solstices and equinoxes with breathtaking accuracy. This means the builders needed to combine their immense physical engineering skills with a sophisticated knowledge of geometry and celestial mechanics. They were not just moving mountains of rock, they were constructing functional machines to track the heavens. This enigma of the megaliths ultimately asks us to expand our definition of technology. It forces us to consider that a deep, empathetic connection to the earth and its materials might be the most powerful tool of all. The placement of a stone could mark the turning of a season. The fall of a shadow might announce a sacred day. This third principle moves beyond the manipulation of earth and water into the realm of celestial mechanics. The master builders were not just shaping the landscape, they were calibrating it, transforming entire sites into colossal, functional timekeeping machines. This practice, often called geomancy, was the art of aligning human structures with the invisible energy lines of the earth and the grand, predictable cycles of the heavens. It was a science of connection, weaving the human world into the cosmic order. Consider the pyramids of Giza. Their sides are aligned with the cardinal directions with an accuracy that seems impossible for a society without modern instruments. This was not an arbitrary choice. It rooted the pharaoh's eternal resting place at the very axis of the world, a permanent anchor between the earthly and the divine. Similarly, at Choco Canyon in the American Southwest, a simple spiral petroglyph becomes a complex astronomical instrument. On the summer solstice, a dagger of sunlight pierces through a rock slab to slice directly through the center of the spiral. This solar event did not require a single moving part, yet it functioned with the precision of a modern clock, marking a pivotal moment in the agricultural and ceremonial year. Can you see the elegance of this system? The entire landscape was the machine, the sun was the power source, and the carefully positioned rock was the indicator. These builders were reading the language of the stars and translating it into stone, creating a calendar that would never need winding and could never be lost. This spiritual dimension infused their work with a profound sense of purpose. They were constructing more than physical shelters, they were building meaning itself. A temple aligned with the solstice sunrise did more than tell time. It reaffirmed the community's relationship with the forces of creation. It was a functional machine for the soul, designed to harmonize human life with the rhythm of the universe. This deep, integrated worldview, where engineering, astronomy, and belief were one and the same, represents the pinnacle of the master builder's art. It suggests that their greatest achievement was not the movement of mountains, but the creation of a world that felt whole, ordered, and deeply, beautifully connected. The ground beneath our feet holds entire worlds. While some builders reached for the sky, others chose a different path, turning inward to carve civilization directly into the living rock. This is the story of the subterranean city, a masterpiece of engineering where the earth itself became architecture. In the heart of Turkey's Cappadocia region lies Derinkuyu, a labyrinthine city descending 18 levels deep into the volcanic tuff. This was no simple refuge. It was a fully functional, planned metropolis capable of sheltering thousands, complete with living quarters, stables for livestock, churches, and even wineries. Every feature was meticulously carved to sustain life for months on end. The rock was more than just walls. It was a multi-purpose material providing natural insulation that kept the interior at a constant, comfortable temperature, cool in the scorching summers and warm during the bitter winters. But a sealed underground city presents an immediate, life-threatening challenge. How do you breathe? The answer reveals the true genius of its designers. They engineered a network of over 50 ventilation shafts, some stretching all the way to the surface, which acted as the city's lungs, constantly cycling fresh air throughout every level. These shafts also doubled as remarkably sophisticated water wells, tapping into underground aquifers to provide a secure and private water supply far from the world above. The entire complex was a self-contained life support machine, a testament to planning for long-term survival. This principle of hidden functionality finds another breathtaking expression in the rose-red city of Petra. Here, the Nabateans did not just carve into the cliff faces. They sculpted magnificent facades directly from the sandstone, creating a city that was both a fortress and a grand public center. The rock provided perfect natural defense, with a narrow, easily defended canyon as its only entrance, yet their mastery went far deeper than the stunning temples visible to all. Behind those famous structures lies an equally impressive network of tunnels, water channels, and reservoirs engineered to control flash floods and store precious water in the arid desert environment. This was not merely hiding from the elements, it was a radical form of adaptation. The builders of these underground realms understood that the greatest strength often lies not in fighting your environment, but in becoming a part of it. They chose not to alter the surface with imposing structures, but to work with the geology, hollowing out a safe and sustainable habitat from within. The rock was their shield, their climate control, and their building block all in one. Can you envision the sense of security, the profound quiet of a city that breathes with the earth itself? These subterranean wonders stand as a powerful counterpoint to our modern impulse to build ever higher. They remind us that sometimes the most advanced solution is to listen to the ground and discover the ready-made fortress it has always offered. A building can be more than a silent monument. It can be designed to sing. This fourth principle moves beyond the visual and the structural into the very vibrations of the air itself. In hidden chambers and towering pyramids, the master builders demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of acoustic engineering, transforming solid stone into resonant instruments. They were not merely constructing spaces to be seen, but environments to be heard and deeply felt. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta offers one of the most profound examples. This subterranean labyrinth, carved from solid limestone around 6,000 years ago, contains an oracle chamber with a truly extraordinary property. A voice spoken in a specific niche resonates and amplifies, its sound waves traveling through the rock to fill the entire room with a deep, pervasive hum. This is not a happy accident. The chamber was meticulously sculpted to achieve this effect, with curves and surfaces that act as a natural amplifier for a very specific, low-frequency range. Researchers suggest that such frequencies could have the capacity to affect human brainwave patterns, potentially guiding participants in ceremonial practices into different states of awareness. Can you hear the intention in that design? The space itself becomes an active participant in a ritual, using the physics of sound as a tool for a spiritual journey. This same deliberate acoustic design is echoed across the world in the stepped pyramids built by the Maya. The grand staircase at Chichen Itza creates a startling auditory illusion. A single hand clap at the base is reflected back not as a simple echo, but as a chirping sound that closely resembles the call of the sacred Quetzal bird. This was not merely an impressive trick, it was a calculated fusion of architecture and natural symbolism, blurring the line between the human world and the realm of nature. The builders possessed an intuitive yet precise knowledge of how sound waves behave. They understood reflection, resonance, and interference. They knew how to shape a wall to focus a whisper, or how the texture of a surface could scatter a chant into a chorus. By choosing specific stones and carving specific angles, they could essentially tune a room like a musician tunes an instrument. This reveals a sensory dimension to their work that we often overlook. Their functional machines were not just for shelter, agriculture, or timekeeping. They were designed to engage the human spirit on multiple levels, using the invisible power of sound to communicate, to heal, and to connect with forces beyond the everyday. It is a reminder that their greatest structures were not meant to be observed from a distance, but to be experienced with the entire body, vibrating with the deep, hidden music of the earth. The true heart of the Angkor Empire did not beat within its temple walls, but pulsed through a hidden network of water. Beneath the iconic spires of Angkor Wat lay a sprawling hydraulic metropolis, a landscape meticulously engineered into a colossal machine for living. The Khmer builders faced a dramatic seasonal challenge, the intense monsoon rains followed by a long, punishing dry season. Their solution was a system of breathtaking ambition. They constructed vast reservoirs called barrays, so enormous they resembled inland seas, alongside a complex web of canals and moats that stretched for dozens of miles. This was not merely infrastructure, it was a form of terrestrial alchemy. The system was designed to capture the deluge of the monsoon, store it in these giant basins, and then release it slowly and methodically throughout the dry months. This transformed the entire region into a perfectly regulated environment for intensive rice cultivation, capable of supporting a population that may have approached 1 million people. The scale of this achievement is almost beyond comprehension. The West Barray alone stretches over 5 miles long and 1 mile wide, a body of water created not by nature, but by human vision and immense labor. Can you envision the control required to manage such a force? This was geoengineering on a staggering scale, turning a volatile climate into a predictable, life-giving resource. Yet the genius of this system extended beyond pure utility. The entire network was laid out with precise geometric symmetry, its axes carefully aligned with cardinal directions and cosmic principles. The water was not just a practical necessity, it was a sacred element, its flow mirroring the celestial order of the Hindu universe. The moats surrounding the temples were not just for defense, they were symbolic oceans encircling the mythical home of the gods. This seamless fusion of practical function and profound spiritual symbolism is the hallmark of the master builder. They created a machine that fed both the body and the soul. For centuries, the full extent of this aquatic machine remained hidden, its canals silted over and reclaimed by the jungle. It is only with modern laser scanning technology, known as LiDAR, that we are beginning to see the true picture. By peering through the dense forest canopy, researchers have mapped a vast urban landscape interconnected by water, revealing that the famous temples were merely the most visible nodes in a far greater engineered organism. The true wonder of Angkor is now understood to be this foundational lattice of earth and water, a testament to a civilization that did not simply build on the land, but who rewrote its very hydrology to create a sustainable, flourishing world. Sometimes the most profound structures are the ones you are not meant to see. For a distinct school of master builders, true genius lay not in creating monuments that dominated the horizon, but in crafting functional spaces that disappeared into it. This is the fifth principle, the art of camouflage and integration, where architecture becomes an extension of the landscape itself. The ancient Pueblo people of the American Southwest perfected this art at places like Mesa, Verde. Here, they constructed entire villages known as cliff dwellings, tucked deep beneath massive sandstone overhangs. From the canyon rim above, these multi-story settlements are nearly invisible, their stone walls mirroring the color and texture of the surrounding cliff face. This was a deliberate and highly effective machine for survival. The primary function was defense through secrecy, shielding the community from potential hardship. But the motivation ran far deeper than simple security. By building within the natural contours of the rock, the builders demonstrated a profound aesthetic and spiritual belief that human work should harmonize with the environment, not conquer it. They were not hiding from the world, but becoming a part of its sacred order. This philosophy of humble integration finds a parallel in the earlier example of Petra, where the famous treasury is not a freestanding building, but a facade carved directly from the living rock of the canyon. The builders used the natural striations and colors of the sandstone not as a limitation, but as a decorative element, making their grandest structures appear as if they had been naturally sculpted by wind and water over millennia. Can you sense the difference in intent? This was a form of deep ecological respect, a commitment to leaving the smallest possible footprint. The goal was to create a functional habitat that provided shelter, community, and defense, all while preserving the natural beauty and spiritual significance of the land. In an age where our own skylines often shout their presence, these whispering structures offer a powerful, silent lesson. They remind us that the most enduring legacy might not be the one that stands out the most, but the one that belongs the most, a testament to the quiet power of building with the earth rather than simply upon it. Yet the canvas of the master builders was not always vertical. In the stark, flat expanse of the Peruvian desert they chose to draw, the Nazca Lines are a collection of vast geoglyphs, enormous figures and geometric shapes etched directly into the stony ground. Here, the medium was not piled stone or carved rock, but the desert pavement itself. The builders performed a simple yet enduring act, carefully removing the dark, sun-baked stones from the surface to reveal the lighter, contrasting soil beneath. This created lines that have survived for well over 1,000 years, a testament to the stability of this arid environment. The sheer scale of these creations is what defines their mystery. A hummingbird with wings outstretched spans the length of several modern jetliners. A spider is drawn with a precision that suggests a deep knowledge of anatomy. A spiral unravels across the desert floor for hundreds of feet. These are not small designs, they are landscape-scale art, so immense that their complete forms can only be comprehended from a vantage point high in the air. This fact lies at the heart of the enduring puzzle. Why would a people create such magnificent works that they themselves could never fully see? The most persistent theory suggests they were a form of astronomical calendar, with certain lines pointing toward celestial events like the solstice sunrise. Others propose they were sacred pathways, walked during important rituals to connect with divine forces. Another compelling idea links them to water, that most precious desert resource, with the shapes and lines acting as markers for subterranean aquifers or as a vast map of the region's hydrology. Could these geoglyphs have been a functional machine for managing life in an unforgiving climate? A coded message to ensure community survival. Perhaps the truest function was communication itself. This was not a machine built for shelter or for storing water, but for sending a message. The entire desert plateau became a page, and the careful removal of stones was the ink. Whether the intended audience was the gods in the sky or the cosmos itself, the Nazca Lines represent a profound act of faith, a desire to inscribe human presence onto the earth in a way that would echo through the ages. They challenge our very definition of a structure, reminding us that a machine can be a question written across the land for all time. A structure can be more than a shelter from the weather. It can become the architect of its own atmosphere. This is the sixth principle, the mastery of microclimates, where builders did not just adapt to their environment but actively sculpted the very air within it. In the scorching heart of ancient Persia, a brilliant invention rose against the sky, the Badir or wind-catching tower. These towering structures were not for decoration, they were functional machines for breathing life into a city. Their design was a stroke of genius, featuring vents at the top that captured any prevailing breeze, no matter how faint. This captured wind was then funneled down a central shaft, often directed over a pool of cool water, or through the naturally lower temperatures of an underground space, before being released into the living quarters below. Simultaneously, the system created a pressure differential that sucked the hot, stale air up and out of the building. It was a perfect, self-regulating cycle of ventilation, a natural air conditioning system powered entirely by the wind itself. This was not a fight against the desert heat, but a clever collaboration with the forces of airflow. The same profound understanding was applied horizontally across entire cities. The narrow, winding streets of many ancient desert towns were not a result of chaotic planning, but a deliberate climatic strategy. These shaded alleys created cool canyons that blocked the intense sun, while their specific orientation was calculated to funnel and accelerate cooling breezes between buildings. Courtyards with central gardens and water features acted as cool air sinks, creating a refreshing reservoir that would naturally flow into surrounding rooms. In colder climates, the principles were simply reversed. Builders would use thick walls of stone or earth with high thermal mass to absorb the sun's heat during the day, slowly releasing it throughout the night to warm the interior. The placement of windows and the angle of roofs were precisely calculated to trap maximum solar gain in winter while providing shade in the summer. Can you feel the intelligence in this approach? Every architectural decision, from the height of a tower to the width of a street, served a dual purpose, providing structure and sustaining a comfortable environment. These were passive climate control machines, requiring no fossil fuels, only an intimate knowledge of physics and place. They demonstrate a form of environmental harmony that our modern world is urgently seeking to relearn. This ancient art of designing with nature rather than against it offers a timeless blueprint for building a world that is not only functional but inherently sustainable. The flow of water through a city can be a precise measure of its ambition. While the soaring arches of Roman aqueducts are iconic, the true engineering marvel was hidden from view, a labyrinthine circulatory system buried beneath the streets. This was not a single channel, but a hierarchical water machine of stunning complexity. The aqueducts themselves were merely the arteries, delivering vast quantities of water from distant mountains to the city's heart. There, the water would pour into massive cisterns known as casella, which acted as the system's beating heart. These reservoirs were the first critical node in a network of distribution, where water was divided and directed with meticulous care. From these central hubs, a sprawling web of lead and terracotta pipes snaked through the urban landscape, a subterranean maze channeling life to public fountains, bustling bathhouses, and even the private residences of the fortunate. But the genius of this system was in its invisible details. Before water ever reached a home, it passed through settling tanks where impurities would sink, and through primitive filters designed to clarify the flow. The Romans even developed methods for pressure regulation, using stepped channels and distribution towers to ensure a constant, manageable flow to neighborhoods at different elevations. Can you envision the constant, quiet hum of this hydraulic organism operating beneath the cobblestones? Every street was pierced and channeled to serve the urban engine, with the flow of water calculated and managed by a dedicated bureaucracy. This represents a profound shift in the philosophy of the master builder. Here, the goal was not harmony with a wild landscape, but the total subjugation of nature on a metropolitan scale. The wilderness was tamed, channeled, and processed to enable a specific, densely populated way of life. The Roman aqueduct network showcases a different facet of the master builder's ambition, one focused on centralized control and the creation of an engineered urban environment, a machine for living that ran as much on water as it did on human will. A landscape can be more than a home, it can be a statement. For a distinct class of master builders, the act of moving Earth was not only about survival or utility, but about forging a collective identity and reinforcing the very structure of society itself. These were symbolic landscapes, vast earthworks designed as functional machines for social cohesion and political power. Consider the great city of Cahokia, which flourished over 1,000 years ago near the Mississippi River. At its heart stood Monk's Mound, an earthen pyramid so immense that its base covers more ground than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The construction of this colossal platform demanded a staggering communal effort, requiring the movement of millions of baskets of soil by hand. This was not a project born of individual ambition alone, but an endeavor that mobilized an entire civilization. The act of building itself became a ritual, a shared purpose that bound the community together. The resulting structure served as a physical anchor for the city's spiritual and political life, a towering stage for ceremonies that would have been visible to every single person below. Its sheer scale was a constant, undeniable reminder of the organizational power and authority that could command such a feat. Similarly, the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio wins its way across the landscape for over 1,000 feet, a sinuous earthwork in the form of an undulating snake. Its function was likely deeply ceremonial, perhaps aligned with astronomical events like the solstices or the cycles of the moon. This was not a fortress or a granary, but a machine for the mind and spirit. Its presence connected the community to their creation myths and their understanding of the cosmos, reinforcing a shared worldview for everyone who lived within its symbolic shadow. The true function of these earthworks, then, was psychological. They were designed to inspire awe, to legitimize leadership, and to shape human thought and behavior by making the dominant cultural order visible, tangible, and permanent. They transformed the very ground beneath people's feet into a testament to collective belief, demonstrating that the most profound and enduring machines are those that master the art of engineering culture itself. The water itself became their farmable soil. In the heart of a vast lake, the Aztec builders of Tenochtitlan faced a geographical paradox, an island city with no space for the fields needed to feed its people. Their response was not to conquer the water, but to coax new land from it, inventing a system of artificial islands known as Chinampas. These were far more than simple rafts. Builders would stake out rectangular plots in the shallow lakebed, weaving together fences from reeds and willow trees. They then dredged the rich, nutrient-dense mud from the canal bottoms, piling it layer upon layer into these enclosures until a new, stable island emerged just above the waterline. The result was a grid of incredibly fertile plots, a sprawling agricultural machine engineered directly onto the water's surface. Can you picture the vibrant green of these floating gardens, stretching for miles across the lake? The canals between them were not empty space, they were integral components of the system. They served as aquatic highways for canoes carrying produce to the city's markets, but they also functioned as sites for aquaculture, where fish could be reared, adding another protein source to the urban diet. The water itself nourished the crops, wicking up through the soil to provide constant hydration, while the canal mud, regularly scooped and reapplied, offered a perpetual source of renewal. This was a closed-loop, self-fertilizing system of breathtaking efficiency. The entire city was a machine adapted perfectly to its lacustrine world. Causeways connected the island to the mainland, while carefully engineered aqueducts brought fresh spring water from the surrounding hills. Every element, from the transportation network to the very food supply, was born from a deep, innovative collaboration with the wetland environment. The builders did not see a swamp to be drained, they saw an opportunity to be woven, creating a civilization that floated on the very resource that defined it. Their legacy endures because they built with the bones of the planet itself. Stone, earth, and water were not merely convenient, they were chosen with profound foresight. These are perpetual materials, elements that are not only incredibly durable but inherently self-repairing over vast stretches of time. A massive stone block might settle or shift slightly with the centuries, but it will not rot or crumble into dust. An earthwork terrace may erode slowly, yet it can be maintained and restored with simple communal labor, generation after generation. Water, while constantly moving, is a cycle without end, a resource that can be managed and redirected but never truly exhausted. The master builders avoided complex composite materials that would inevitably break down in unpredictable ways. They sought a timeless simplicity, designing with the very geology under their feet. This was a philosophy of building for permanence, a stark contrast to our modern world of planned obsolescence and disposable goods. They were not constructing for a quick return or a single lifetime. Their vision stretched across centuries, a gift intended for generations they would never meet. Can you feel the weight of that responsibility? It was an act of profound faith in the future. The structures they left behind ask us a challenging question about our own world. What have we built in the last 100 years that will still be fully functional 1,000 years from now? What materials are we using that possess that same eternal quality? Our concrete and steel often fail where their stone and earth still stand. This principle of perpetual materials is perhaps their most humbling lesson, a quiet insistence that true engineering is measured not in decades but in millennia. It redefines progress not as constant replacement, but as the wisdom to build something once and build it to last forever. A simple hole in the ground becomes a masterpiece of environmental design. In the arid expanses of the American Southwest, the ancient Puebloan builders perfected this art with the sunken courtyard, a structure known as a kiva. Instead of raising walls towards the sky, they dug a circular room several feet down into the earth itself. This single, deliberate act transformed the harsh desert climate. The surrounding soil, with its immense thermal mass, acted as a natural insulator, keeping the enclosed space mercifully cool during the blistering summer days and trapping warmth during the frigid nights. This was not merely a shelter from the elements, it was a machine for creating a perfect microclimate, a bubble of comfort carved from the very ground. Yet the kiva's function ran far deeper than simple temperature control. It served as the vibrant social and ceremonial heart of the community, a true communal gathering machine. Here, people would come together to share stories, conduct rituals, and strengthen the bonds that held their society together. The architecture itself was deeply symbolic, as the act of digging down connected them spiritually to the underworld, the place of emergence and ancestral origins. Can you feel the profound sense of belonging in such a space? It was a place where the practical and the sacred were woven into a single, seamless experience. The kiva stands as a testament to a powerful truth, that sometimes the most advanced solution is not to build upon the land, but to listen to its wisdom and discover the perfect, ready-made environment waiting just beneath the surface. The most resilient structures are those that learn from the past. Master builders understood that a landscape holds memory, and they often chose to become part of its ongoing story rather than writing over it completely. This principle of adaptive reuse reveals a deeply pragmatic and respectful relationship with the world. They saw a striking natural rock outcrop not as a barrier to be cleared, but as a potential altar or foundational pillar. An existing cave system was not merely a shelter, but a starting point to be carefully expanded into a multi-room dwelling, its natural walls providing strength and insulation. Even the works of their own ancestors were treated as a foundation for the future. It was common practice to build a new temple directly upon the stone footings of an older one, honoring the sacredness of the location while allowing the community's expression to evolve. The landscape was treated as a living manuscript, where each generation could add a new layer of meaning without erasing what came before. These functional machines were never truly finished, they evolved. A simple water channel from 1 century might be integrated into a complex aqueduct system 200 years later. A defensive wall might be extended and reinforced, its design improving with each iteration as builders learned from the successes and failures of those who came before them. This long-term, cumulative approach challenges our modern obsession with the new and improved. It suggests that the most intelligent design is not the one that invents everything from nothing, but the one that skillfully weaves new functions into the old, enduring fabric of the land. Their legacy was not a single moment of creation, but a continuous, collaborative conversation across time. The silent journey of a Moai statue began deep within the quarry of Rano-Raraku. Here, master carvers freed the volcanic giants from the mountainside, their forms slowly emerging from the solid rock. But the true marvel of engineering started only after the carving was complete. The challenge was not simply to move an 80-ton block of stone, but to guide it for miles across a rugged, undulating terrain to its final coastal platform. For decades, the prevailing image was one of brute force, with hundreds of people dragging the statues on log rollers. Yet this theory never fully explained the scattered, fallen Moai discovered along the ancient roads, their faces pointed toward the ground as if they had fallen mid-stride. A different explanation, drawn from both local oral history and modern experimentation, presents a far more dynamic and ingenious solution. Researchers have demonstrated that a surprisingly small team, using a careful arrangement of ropes, could rock a replica statue from side to side. With each rhythmic pull, the center of mass would shift, causing the massive figure to pivot on its curved base and edge forward. The effect was not a drag, but a slow, deliberate walk. The statue itself became a walking machine, a ponderous giant inching its way across the island. This method transforms our understanding of the entire endeavor from a sheer test of muscle into a coordinated ballet of physics. It required an intimate, intuitive knowledge of balance and kinetics, a feel for the stone's rhythm that could only be learned through generations of practice. The process would have been deeply communal, a rhythmic, almost ritualistic act that united the entire community in a shared, monumental task. Can you hear the coordinated chants, the creak of ropes, the slow, percussive thud of stone meeting earth with each step? The Moai were not merely being transported, they were being walked to their posts in a grand, terrestrial procession. This theory elevates the statues from silent sentinels to entities captured in a state of eternal motion, a testament to a culture that did not just carve giants, but knew how to make them walk. A perfect curve or a precise right angle was never just an aesthetic choice. It was the deep, structural language through which these master builders conversed with the universe. Underlying the grandest terraces and the most imposing megaliths was a sophisticated, if often unspoken, understanding of mathematics. The landscape itself was treated as a living equation, a mathematical canvas where harmony, balance, and proportion were carefully calculated. This was not about cold numbers on a page. It was about using the inherent order of geometry to create machines that were not only functional and strong, but also beautiful and spiritually potent. Consider the Parthenon in Athens, where the proportions of the entire structure are said to follow the golden ratio. This specific mathematical relationship, found throughout nature in seashells and flower petals, was believed to represent a divine harmony. By embedding this ratio into their temple, the builders were weaving a thread of cosmic order directly into their architecture. The same mathematical precision is etched into the stones of the Great Pyramid. Its base forms a nearly perfect square, and the triangular sides align with such accuracy that the margin of error is astonishingly small. These were not approximations. They were the result of a profound grasp of Pythagorean principles, ensuring the colossal structure would possess unparalleled stability. This mathematical foundation served a triple purpose. First, it guaranteed structural integrity, distributing immense weights and resisting the forces of time and weather. Second, it provided a deep, subconscious aesthetic pleasure, a sense of rightness that resonates with the human eye. And third, it ensured cosmological correctness, aligning human creations with the perceived mathematical order of the heavens. The builders saw the world as a measurable, ordered system, and their sacred duty was to place their work within this grand design in a way that was both philosophically coherent and utterly practical. This principle beautifully bridges the perceived gap between science and art, revealing a world where a perfectly laid stone was both a feat of engineering and a line in a celestial poem. A single beacon fire could traverse the entire empire in a single night. The Great Wall of China stands as perhaps the ultimate expression of the landscape machine, a structure so vast its true function is often misunderstood. It was far more than a simple barrier of stone and earth. This was an integrated logistical network, a linear city meticulously engineered into the spine of the continent itself. Its builders performed a masterful act of terrestrial reading, carefully selecting the most defensible mountain ridges and treacherous passes, weaving the wall along the contours of the land so that the topography itself became a primary component of its defensive strength. The wall was not built despite the mountains, it was built with them, a collaboration between human ambition and geological reality. This machine was designed with multiple, intertwined functions operating simultaneously across an immense scale. It served as a highly elevated transportation corridor, allowing for the rapid movement of troops and supplies across otherwise impassable terrain. Its watchtowers were not isolated posts, but the sensitive nodes of a colossal nervous system. Each tower was positioned within the line of sight of the next, creating a communication network of breathtaking speed and efficiency. A message, signaled by smoke during the day or fire by night, could relay a warning from a distant frontier to the imperial capital in a matter of hours. Can you envision the chain of light stretching across the darkened landscape, a silent, urgent conversation between stone and sky, but the system's genius extended beyond signaling? Garrison stations were integrated directly into the wall's structure, functioning as self-sufficient communities capable of sustaining a long-term military presence. These stations housed soldiers, stored grain, and maintained forges, ensuring that every segment of the wall was not just a defensive line, but a living, breathing outpost of the empire. This was a machine that could see, signal, and sustain itself. It transformed a sprawling, vulnerable border into a managed, regulated frontier. The Great Wall demonstrates the pinnacle of multifunctional design, where a single, continuous intervention in the landscape served as fortification, communication highway, and logistical base all at once. It challenges us to see beyond the simple silhouette and perceive the deeply integrated, living system that once pulsed with information and life, a true machine built from the land itself. The true power behind these landscape machines was not found in any quarry or river, but in the collective spirit of the community itself. A single individual could never hope to move a moe or carve a subterranean city. These were achievements born from a social engine, a meticulously organized system of collective labor that transformed the work of thousands into a single, unified force. This human machinery operated on shared purpose, with entire civilizations mobilizing for projects that would serve generations to come. The very act of building became a ritual that strengthened social bonds and passed critical knowledge from elders to the young. Can you hear the rhythm of that shared effort, the coordinated chants, and the communal pride in watching a reservoir fill or a terrace wall rise? The resulting structure was far more than a physical object. It was a physical manifestation of the community's identity, a permanent reminder of what they could accomplish together. This deep, intrinsic ownership meant that the maintenance of these machines was not a chore, but a continued expression of communal care. The system functioned because the people who built it were the same people who relied on it for their survival and their cultural meaning. This principle offers a profound lesson in collective action. The most resilient and enduring systems are not those imposed from above, but those that are woven directly into the social fabric, owned and operated by the very communities they are designed to serve. It is a timeless reminder that our greatest structures are built not just with hands, but with shared responsibility and a common vision for the future. A mineral-rich spring seeps from the mountainside, a solitary thread of brine in the vastness of the Andes. But the master builders of Mauras saw in this humble stream the potential for an entire industry. They transformed the steep slope into a cascading mosaic of thousands of shallow, terraced pools, a glittering staircase of white that harnesses the most fundamental forces of nature. This is not a mine, it is a solar-powered evaporation machine designed with breathtaking simplicity. The salty water is channeled from its subterranean source into a network of handmade canals, then carefully directed into one terraced pan after another. A simple plug of stone or earth is all that is needed to control the flow, filling each pool to a precise depth. Then, the high-altitude sun and the dry mountain air take over, steadily drawing the moisture into the sky. Over days, the water vanishes, leaving behind a crystalline crust of pure salt. The entire system operates on gravity and solar energy, a passive production line that has required no fuel for centuries beyond the light of the sun. The true genius of Mauras, however, lies in its beautiful balance of communal cooperation and individual stewardship. The network of water channels is shared, a communal resource maintained by the collective. Yet each family owns and tends their own set of pans, carefully scraping the salt and preparing it for market, a tradition passed unbroken from parent to child. This is a living, working heirloom, a functional machine that has sustained the local community for generations. It demonstrates that industry does not have to scar the land. Here, the landscape is not exploited but actively collaborated with, its natural processes accelerated with gentle, precise intervention. Can you see the cycle at work? The mountain provides the brine, the sun provides the energy, and human ingenuity provides the elegant design that brings them together. This is not a relic of the past frozen in time. It is a continuing conversation between a community and its environment, a testament to the enduring power of building with the world, not just upon it. The greatest designs were never drawn on parchment. The true genius of the master builders resided in a vast library of invisible knowledge, a sophisticated understanding of the world passed not through books, but through lived experience and the careful guidance of a mentor. This was a tacit wisdom learned by hand and eye over a lifetime of apprenticeship. A builder knew the precise angle at which a specific type of local clay would slump. They could predict the seasonal shift in a water table by the smell of the air or the behavior of certain plants. They understood that a quarry on the north face of a mountain yielded a denser, more durable stone than one on the south. This deep, localized intelligence was the essential software that powered their magnificent hardware of earth and stone. It was a knowledge system perfectly adapted to its place, built upon millennia of continuous observation and refinement. Can you feel the depth of that connection? It was a conversation with the land that spanned generations. This is precisely why we can measure their stones with lasers yet still struggle to replicate their methods. We possess the blueprints of their structures, but we have lost the living context, the oral traditions that explained why this arch never falls or how that channel never silts up. The loss of this intangible heritage represents a profound fragility in human accomplishment. A physical monument can endure for millennia, but the knowledge that breathed life into it can vanish in a single generation. This principle resonates with urgent relevance in our own era of rapid change, where specialized skills and ancient ecological wisdom are disappearing at an alarming rate. It challenges us to look beyond the grand ruins and ask what other invisible, essential knowledge we might be overlooking today. The legacy of these builders is a powerful reminder that preserving a culture requires more than conserving its artifacts. It demands the active safeguarding of the practices, the stories, and the hard-won wisdom that gave them meaning. The ground itself could become a source of both destruction and prophecy. In the geologically restless lands of the Mediterranean, ancient builders created structures that were designed not just to stand, but to sway. They understood that to fight the Earth's sudden shudders was a battle they could not win, so they chose instead to collaborate with the chaos. Within the walls of Minoan palaces on Crete, archaeologists have found a brilliant innovation: timber beams carefully laid in a lattice pattern within the stone masonry. This was not for decoration. This wooden skeleton acted as a flexible frame, allowing the entire wall to bend and absorb seismic energy without shattering. It was a form of ancient shock absorption, a way of giving the stone a kind of resilience, a living flexibility that pure rock could never possess on its own. This principle of allowing movement extended even to the foundations. Some Greek temples were built on layers of compacted sand and gravel between their stone platforms and the bedrock below. During a tremor, this granular layer would shift and settle, effectively isolating the massive structure above from the worst of the ground's violent motion. The entire building would slide and settle as a single unit rather than cracking apart. Can you envision the foresight required to build a structure with the expectation that it would need to move? This was a profound acceptance of the environment's reality, an engineering philosophy based on yielding and adaptation, but the connection to the Earth's power ran even deeper. At sites like the Oracle of Delphi, the spiritual function of the landscape was inseparable from its physical nature. The chamber where the priestess delivered her prophecies was built over a geologic fault line from which slight amounts of intoxicating gases would occasionally seep. The very vibrations and gaseous emissions that signaled the Earth's instability were interpreted as the breath of the gods, a sacred conduit for divine messages. The architecture here was a machine with a dual purpose, its strategic design perhaps mitigating the same seismic forces that provided its spiritual potency. This intertwining of the practical and the sacred reveals a holistic world, where survival and spirituality were not separate pursuits. The builders did not merely see earthquakes as a threat to be endured. They saw the Earth's immense energy as a force that could be managed, respected, and even harnessed for meaning. They transformed a terrifying natural violence into a dialogue, creating resilient spaces that were both physically safe and spiritually profound. From the water channels of Petra to the celestial alignments of Giza, these wonders reveal a unified philosophy, a grand collaboration between human vision and the living Earth. The master builders left us a powerful testament that true functionality can be breathtakingly beautiful, inherently sustainable, and spiritually profound. Their work was not an act of conquest over the natural world, but a deep and respectful dialogue with it. They learned the grammar of geology, the vocabulary of water, and the poetry of the stars, then composed symphonies in stone. This legacy stands in quiet judgment of our own era, challenging our most basic assumptions about what constitutes technology and progress. It asks us to reconsider whether sophistication is always measured in silicon and steel, or if it can also be found in the enduring wisdom of stone, the simple logic of gravity-fed water, and the patient observation of seasonal cycles. As we navigate our own complex environmental challenges, their timeless lesson becomes an urgent guide. They teach us to see the world not as a warehouse of resources to be extracted, but as a vast, intricate partner to be understood. Our task, like theirs, is to learn its language and tune this magnificent planetary machine with a care and respect that will echo for countless generations